Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just do it. Just do it.
Like your glove. Looks like you've done it before.
What's that?
Both of y'all. Look at you guys. That looks great.
It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. What do you want? Where do you want to go? You can go right here. However you want.
I can actually run it through here probably.
Have at it.
It's not like you've been mic'd up before.
So HAR-BER TV has a pretty good heritage. It
Oh,
started in 05 and
I'm aware.
yeah, probably has about 100 people in the industry now over the last almost 2 decades.
Well, who broadcasts the games?
So that goes through, it's a student team
It is,
and,
yeah.
and it varies. We have,
There have been times when I've watched. So
These
I've
guys
been
are the ones
impressed.
who do the games, though, for sure.
Now, I had a bottle of water with me, and there may not be any water
Yes,
around,
we-
but I don't have any saliva glands because of my cancer.
We have some water.
So
We'll get you
occasionally I need a sip. I may not need it right now, but
that's no problem. We've got one for you.
thank you.
some. And
We
guys,
sure are glad you're here. Thank you.
if y'all want to, y'all can stay in here, you want to, but we also put seats in here. If you want to
Yeah,
watch.
I don't care if anybody's
Ugh. And we've got our little script for today. I tried to be as spiffy as possible. Teleprompters. One time you don't have to read off those. So we're gonna go here, and then I'm gonna say, Chris Mortensen, thank you for joining us. And then we're gonna turn to each other and act like we're having a conversation. We got that camera over there pointing at you. And at the end, when I say thank you for joining us again, good luck this NFL season, then we're gonna turn back to the middle.
I need to, one moment, guys.
It's good, we weren't even
Well,
ready
I
yet.
forgot to text my wife. She didn't know, even though I'm here. She had woke up in the middle of the night too, and then went back to sleep. Sorry.
No.
I'm gonna count you down. You know what button press, right? Yeah, he knows.
All right.
He knows.
We are ready to go.
You ready?
Hunter, you look like a giant compared to me.
I tried to. My brother's 6'7", so I wish I had that gene. He's playing Division II basketball.
Is he?
Over Missouri Southern.
Oh, that's great. I know that.
I wish I got his tall gene, but I got the half of it.
Oh, you're plenty tall.
Welcome back. And joining us now is the man himself, senior NFL insider, Chris Mortensen. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hunter, it's a pleasure. Thanks for asking.
And Chris, you know a lot about what it takes to be successful. You started at ESPN in 1991 and have been a huge part of the analyst team for the NFL, being a part of NFL Countdown and many more shows. Can you tell us about how you reached this level of success?
Many more shows, yes. Well, I don't know that anything was planned. I mean, I really started out basically in Torrance, California, which was, I consider my hometown. I was born in Inglewood, California, which is a suburb of LA. And just grew up playing sports, football, basketball, baseball. And ended up working at the local newspaper called the Daily Breeze on a Friday and Saturday night when it wasn't basketball season or in season for anything else. Lost my spleen playing football, so it gave me a little break there. So I was working part-time there, and then things evolved to where eventually that newspaper hired me, asked me if I was interested in being their high school sports editor, which was covering all sports. And as I was going to junior college, El Camino, but I also got interrupted by the U.S. Army. I was drafted. So I'm giving you the short version to tell you that's how I started. And covering the high school sports for the Daily Breeze was a wonderful experience. We had 32 high schools in our area. I covered George Brett, who some people may know, when he was a senior at El Segundo High School. So I'm really dating myself here.
Yeah.
But the one thing that gave me was I did have a passion. I wanted to coach and teach. That was my first goal. But I took a left turn or a right turn, I can't remember which it was, into this. And I think that was, if I could ever recommend to anybody, if they had a passion for something, is don't think you're too good to not start at the bottom. Now, that's not the bottom, but it's the foundation. That's how I look at it. When we build a house, we build it on a foundation. So that was the foundation to my career, and it just evolved from there. I did high schools for almost 4 or 5 years, junior college and everything. Taught me how to build relationships. I built that passion for reporting, and then I actually was asked by our sports editor to if I would want to cover Major League Baseball. And so I covered the LA Dodgers, Tommy Lasorda for 6 years. That was the team I grew up with. And then I was recruited by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to cover Atlanta Braves. So that evolved. Met my wife, Mickey, there. And that was a turning point in my life, obviously. And so I went from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to a thing called the National Sports Daily. Nobody will remember it, but it was a big part of where I am now, because that paper had some of the greatest journalists, sports journalists in the country. And that's where ESPN kind of studied my work. And a guy named Fred Godelli, who is well known in our business. He's been the executive producer of Sunday Night Football for NBC for a long time. He was working at ESPN then. He asked me if I'd be interested in doing the NFL draft. And I said, sure, I'll try it. And didn't really like TV, didn't want to do TV. In fact, I almost quit 2 or 3 times. I didn't like having makeup on, didn't like combing my hair. As you can tell, I don't like combing my hair. Didn't shave, all those things, but it's worked out.
And how did the show Mort Report specifically come about? What was your expectations going in? How do you think you've exceeded or met those?
Well, I mean, Mort Report was just to play off my name, obviously. Now I say that because everybody thinks, my mom, where she worked, they called her Mort. Nobody likes to say Mortensen, so they'll say Morty or Mort. And so it was just to play off my name, so I joined NFL Countdown that same year in 1991. And Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, who now is my best friend, played for the Denver Broncos for 14 years. Joe Theismann, and people should know him. He was a great quarterback for the Washington team. And me, we were on the desk, and that's kind of where the Mort Report was birthed. And ESPN wanted to call it that, and I didn't object. So that was basically it. But what it really is just practicing your journalistic skills as a reporter, and trying to figure out how to do that in a shorter period of time. Because the toughest thing for a writer back then, if you wrote about a topic, you didn't do it in 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. So trying to figure that out and turn it into a caption, which now is Twitter, was very difficult for me.
And in 2016, you broke the story of that NFL season, that legendary quarterback Peyton Manning would be retiring. And if that's not its feat in itself, you also were suffering from stage 4 throat cancer and were getting treatment at the time. So tell us, how you had the strength to still do your job during that and come back and be a survivor of cancer.
Well, since it's my job to tell the truth, I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't do anything. All I did was lay in a bed at MD Anderson Hospital in Houston, Texas, and got a phone call. And I wasn't taking many phone calls because my throat was I was undergoing radiation. It was pretty burned up. And I saw Peyton calling, and he simply called me to tell me he was letting a few people know that he was going to retire the next day. And that was really how it happened. And then before he hung up, He said, hey, do you want to break this story? I said, I'm not really working, Peyton. I mean, we've known each other a while. I said, but sure, I'd love to. And he goes, well, he said, can you give me one night to just enjoy my last night as an NFL quarterback? I said, I think I can give that to you. And so I actually called my boss and told him what I had. And my boss, a man named Seth Markman, got extremely nervous that we were going to sit on a very big story. I said, I gave my word, and that's all I can tell you is that if you give your word, the trust factor is probably one of the most important traits you have as a reporter, and I would say even as a person in anything you do. And I said, I gave my word, he trusted, and we're going to be disciplined enough to stick to that. But first thing next morning, he released it, and then that's how that story broke.
Mm-hmm. And then you've broken several major stories with, you're always on the pulse of the NFL. Your finger is always on the pulse. Tell us maybe what's your most legendary story that you've broken, or maybe your favorite story that you've ever broken.
Well, without question, the most important story in my life as a journalist came in from the years 1987 to 1990. And it was when I was swapping over from baseball to football. And I was advised, if you want to start meeting people, building relationships, because I always will tell people that building relationships is the most important thing you can do in our business. He said, you need to go to Mobile, Alabama, and just meet people at the Senior Bowl, where college graduates play an all-star game. But it was at that Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, that I was told anyways, that there were a couple sports agents from New York who were in the music business, but had crossed over and signed about 18 first-round players illegally. But not only that, they were connected to the mafia, and that they were threatening people. And that, from that moment on, that was about January of 1987, it dragged me on this incredible story. I can't tell you how many stories I wrote, but it won me a lot of awards. I got nominated for the Pulitzer a couple of times. My newspaper thought I should have won it one year, but it ended up even more spectacular than I just described. It was a mafia captain. There were people who were injured and beat up. It was a very interesting situation. It ended up in a U.S. district courtroom in Chicago. Resulted in changing of a lot of laws and statewide as player agents could interact, which is actually doesn't mean anything now with everything going on in college sports with NIL. But the spicy part of it was that you actually had the mafia involved, and it led to a book that I wrote as well. So that kind of gobbled up a lot of time, but also brought me more into a national focus as well. But you know, it's like one of those stories of a lifetime. Very, very few times you get the story of a lifetime, and you would have had to been there. Because, by the way, about 5 of those players, and the unfortunate part is a lot of the reporting that I did made some players ineligible. I didn't feel bad at the time, but later on I felt, wow. But what am I going to do? I just got, you follow what your facts are, you trust your sources, or you trust, what detectives or an FBI special agent would call evidence, and you do your reporting on it. So it was a story of a lifetime, and along the way you still continue to build those relationships as you're covering the National Football League, which I still was.
And then speaking of, you signed a new deal. You told me right before this interview you've been doing it for 33 years. I mean, what's next for Chris Mortensen at ESPN?
Well, it's a good question because I'm basically 71 years old. So, people say, "What do you feel like retiring?" I was talking to actually an old editor of ours, John Walsh, who was really the basis for the jump-starting Sports Center, John Walsh, and we were talking yesterday, and it's like retiring is one of those funny things. It's like, I know I'm a Christian man. There's nothing in the Bible about retirement. I don't feel like retired, I guess, but I have downsized quite a bit. I mean, at this point, I've downsized where I'm just doing Sunday NFL Countdown. And so my retirement is in the works, but as long as I'm alive, especially after undergoing, as you described earlier, stage 4 cancer, which is certainly had its impact on me physically and in every which way. Some of it's good, by the way. But at the same time, I enjoy doing that work, and I'm kind of what you say. Some people always talk about ramping up. I'm ramping down, but you also have people that you know, people in your family that you love, and relationships you build, and being part of a church, and all those things are all part of my life. It's not the most important thing in my life. It used to be, and it was probably misplaced, but I think if you study people's careers, that's how it works.
Mm-hmm. And then what advice would you give, I mean, you kind of touched up on it earlier, but what advice would you give to young students who are watching and who are aspiring to be in the same position that you are today?
Well, I give this kind of basic speech no matter what the goal of that individual young person is, which is find your passion. If you have a passion for something, don't make your motivation money. Where can I go make the most money? Now, I'll get knocked in the side of the head by some people probably, but follow your passion, and if it's your passion, then see what doors it open. You can't doors won't open unless you have a passion, and you are going to run into, you'll have road bumps, you'll have doors that are locked, and that passion will steer you, I think, through all those obstacles that you face in the way. And the other thing is just, build a good foundation, and don't be afraid to start at the bottom part of that foundation. I once had, when I worked at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, we had a student from the University of Alabama, had just graduated. I'll say he came from a well-to-do family. I'll just leave it that way. But he came out of our managing sports editor's office. He had kind of a long face on, and he came walking down the newsroom. And there used to be newsrooms, by the way. He came down the newsroom, and he came and saw me. I said, why the long face? And he said, well, I just talked to Van. He wants me to go cover high school. And I didn't go get a degree to cover high schools. I said, so what did you tell him? He said, I told him I would think about it. I said, go back in there and shake Van's hand and tell him, thank you very much. You're going to love covering high schools. And I don't know if he did that, but he did end up covering high schools for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mort, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and good luck on the rest of the NFL season as we watch from home.
Well, good luck, Connor, and everybody you work with there. I only live a mile away from Rogers High School. So,
wow, you're right here.
And I'm right here.
We need you to come back, maybe. As Mort and I both know, nothing happens on the field that is possible without the supporting cast of fans, trainers, cheerleaders, and many more. We look to the sidelines to shine a little more light on how important these people truly are to the football season. Take a look. There we go.
I probably ate too much time, didn't I?
Hey, you take up all the time you need.
Did that go out there? You were okay with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Worked perfect for us.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
What?
You should have seen the assembly, the Marshallese community. They went off
Did they?
at the assembly for Glacier. It was awesome.
You seem a lot taller than me in the monitor.
Oh, I'm sitting up. I'm ready to go. That's what he was telling me. He was looking over there and said I looked like a giant. I'm just trying to sit up and be a little
All right,
proper.
sure. Well, I slouch here.
Yes. Ready? Welcome back. Joining us now in the studio is special guest number 2, but number 1 in our hearts, Superintendent of Springdale Public Schools, Dr. Jared Cleveland. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Connor.
Dr. Cleveland, as we start to wrap up a lot of our beginning of the year sports, including football, volleyball, tennis and golf, how do you think Springdale schools have performed this year in these sports specifically?
Well, I can tell you, we have great kids they're awesome athletes, but they're better people. So just being out there, being competitive, that excites me. And I'd love to have multiple kids providing multiple opportunities for them to show off their talents. Just like your talents in here and the folks that are helping make this work, and to have them out there doing the same thing, that's a fantastic thing for all of us. And I think district-wide, all of these sports opportunities provide kids those chances to shine. And I think they've done a great job.
And this question's a doozy right here.
Okay.
We're actually in one of the most tight playoff hope scenarios in a while, with one game deciding which Springdale school will go to the playoffs. This game, of course, being the game against the Bulldogs and the Mavericks. If the Bulldogs do win, they go to the playoffs as a 6th seed. This is assuming that the Wildcats do not upset the Fayetteville Bulldogs. And if they lose, it goes vice versa, and the Wildcats go as a 6th seed to the playoffs. What do you think about this situation?
Well, I think both teams are going to win. So if both teams win, we're in great shape, right?
I mean, I guess you can say that. Yeah. There you
So
go.
I think you go into every game believing you can win, Connor. And, you know, to have the competition level that we have in Northwest Arkansas, and, you know, having Fort Smith part of this, it's like the SEC West. It's a really hard group, you know, a conference. And so if you can win here, you can win really anywhere. So I'm confident that if either team gets in the playoffs, they'll do well. Now, meeting a 1 seed or a 2 seed or something from the other side does create a problem. But, you know, I'm a believer in the Wildcats and the Bulldogs. And I'm going to be rooting for both teams.
Yeah, I think that's kind of your job to do that as well. But at the same time, I mean, that underdog mentality, it's not unaccustomed to the HAR-BER Wildcats nor the Springdale Bulldogs. I mean, tell us more about that. I mean, you're going to go in against the 1 or 2 seed of the other conference as a 6th seed. I mean, how important it is to take that mentality and kind of punch them in the mouth early?
Well, I felt like I've been an underdog all my life. You know, I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but that's okay, because if people don't take you for real, then you can sneak up and punch them in the mouth or punch them in the nose, whatever it is you said, and win. That's a good feeling. To be hunted is a lot harder than to be the one hunting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the underdog really has an advantage at times that I think we could take in our own hearts and lay that out there. Besides, the kids have a lot to play for. You know, it's going to be senior night for the Wildcats and the last game of the year for the Bulldogs as far as regular season game. So I think both schools have a lot to play for. And I think they both want to win. So
Yeah. Hope they do.
I do too.
As some sports wrap up, a lot of sports begin, especially basketball, which I know is mine, and probably your favorite sport, as you were an ex-coach for basketball. What can we expect from your understanding of the teams from the Bulldogs and the Wildcats this upcoming season?
I think all 4 of our senior high teams are going to be great. Bulldogs and Wildcats both. The girls team on the Wildcat side. Of course, they've got a pretty good coach, right? So I think they're going to be ready. I think the boys on the Wildcat side is going to be really good. I hear that SHS has some really good boys players. And of course, Heather Hunsucker is a great coach over there too on the girls side. So I think basketball in Springdale is going to be special this year. And I can't wait to go to some games. Yeah.
I know, right? I can't wait to comment.
You should have fun this year.
Oh, it'll be very fun. I can't wait to get with Zach Lawrence, talk to them about sports.
Oh, and Zach Zach knows a thing or two,
Oh, he knows a thing or two because he's
does.
been around long enough to do it.
and he's really good.
Springdale Schools is kind of under construction right now with a lot of buildings being worked on. I mean, tell us about the construction of various buildings throughout the district and the plans for them.
Well, I'll start with Springdale High. Springdale High has a brand new arena coming out of the ground. I don't know if you've been over there, but it's right to the south of the end zone. You can actually see the walls going up right now from my office, and we're quite a bit of ways from across the street. But it's going to be a great arena. It'll have some classroom spaces there too. We've got Central Junior High and Southwest Junior High, which is the HAR-BER feeder. They're both being rebuilt. Everything will be new except for the gymnasiums. And so we'll have 2 auxiliary gyms that are going to be built too. They're going to be brand new, along with the schools. And Central will be finished prior to Southwest. Southwest was a much bigger build as far as difficulty. So the school itself at Southwest will be knocked down after the 2-story facility over there is complete. And it's a 24-month process over there, 16 to 18 months at Central. But the main building for Central will be open this next year. And during the school year, this coming year, we will reconfigure and build a new cafeteria and out toward Huntsville. So it's a tough process to go through. I don't know if you've ever had any construction going on in your home while you were living in it, but it's hard. And so the kids that are going through Southwest and Central and the teachers that are there and the administration, they're really going through a hard time. And I mean, I'm thankful for them, but they can also see the future too, that they're going to have brand new facilities. And I think that's great.
And also, I would not be doing my job right if I didn't bring up the fact that you won Superintendent of the Year in the state of Arkansas. Very much deserved, very much. How do you feel how you've met your expectations? You received the job about this is year 3. How do you think you've exceeded or met your expectations going into that job?
Well, first of all, just like this program, you may be the face, but everybody else makes it happen too, right?
Yes.
So that's exactly what's happened in Springdale. You can look at all the assistant superintendents and you can look at the principals all the way through the kids and the parents in this community. Jared Cleveland really did nothing. It's Jared Cleveland along with name them. So it's an honor to have that kind of an award come to Springdale, and that's just kind of the way I feel about it. I'm thankful, I'm certainly blessed. My career has been, it's been unique. And I know that God's blessed me, and I think that to whom much is given, much is required. And so I just keep working, and I'm excited to do it. And I hope that I'm able to finish my career right here in Springdale, working with young people like you that are going to be famous one day. So that's a good thing.
We do hope so.
Yeah.
That was also Luke 12:48. Love it. Dr. Cleveland, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck the rest of the school year.
Appreciate it.
That's going to wrap it up for us on this 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. Behind the scenes of all sports is WCSN. I'm Connor Jenkins. Up next, kickoff. We'll see you next time. There we go.
Thank you, Connor.
No problem. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
Oh, shoot.
Coach Wood. Why not? Joining us now in the studio to kick things off is Coach Wood. Coach, thanks for joining us. Coach, the Wildcats followed the Rogers Mountie last Friday, 55-6. What's your thoughts on how your team performed in this game?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit rough. I mean, offensively, we really struggled trying to get the run game going. Our run game kind of sets up all of our passing, and so our guys competed. It's just you got to tip the cap to Rogers. They did a really nice job of loading the box and get our run game stopped. Defensively, I thought we really settled down after the first couple possessions, even though they got points. So we were in it through that second quarter, but just a tough field position for them to have to defend a short field. And but it just goes back to just coming up on the short end of some key opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And the Wildcats fall to 1-5 in conference play with that one win coming against crosstown rival, the Springdale Bulldogs. How do you think your team has performed this season?
Well, I mean, it's kind of been, you know, a little bit up and down here and there, but I love their effort. I love their commitment each and every week. It's just, you know, we get in most of those games, you go back to the West. I mean, we came out sluggish, played a really fantastic second half. Against Southside, you know, we're playing really good offensively and kind of stall out towards the end of the game. Defense has a little bit of a challenge getting some stops here and there. So it just really comes back, it just seems like we just haven't been able to do enough just to get over the hump, but it's not because of lack of effort and desire by our players.
Mm-hmm. And then we come to a very interesting scenario. Of course, we got the Fayetteville Bulldogs this Friday, and if we upset them, then this scenario changes. But at the same time, it hinges on the Springdale and Southside game, on the result of that. If Springdale wins, they get the 6th seed, they go to the playoffs. If it goes vice versa, then the Wildcats get the 6th seed and go to the playoffs, barring that upset. I mean, what do you think of this scenario?
Well, that's one of them. There's also the Heritage scenario. And so, you know, all three of us control our own destinies, really. I mean, if Heritage can beat Rogers, if Springdale can beat Southside, they position themselves for the 6th seed. We can beat Fayetteville. We position ourselves for the 6th seed. If two of us lose and one wins, that person's in. If all three of us come up short with tiebreaker and all that, we fall into that 6th spot. So there's a lot of variables going to play out on this last 10th week of the football date.
And then how important is this game against Fayetteville? You just talked about it. I mean, how important really is this?
Oh, I mean, It's a huge game. I mean, where it really matters is, we want to win the game for our senior class. We want them to be, it's going to be their last game on their home field on a Friday night under the lights. And we want them to go out with a win. And so for us, that's the most important thing is about tonight. I know there's a playoff implication to it and everything else, but really just when the day's done, we want those seniors to be able to walk off that field with their head high, enjoy the moment, and get a win against Fayetteville. And that would be everything for us.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, it's been a little bit of a rough season, but at the same time, you have a very young group. I mean, tell us about the future of Har-BER High School in football.
Well, I'm probably not going to talk too much about the future of Har-BER football now because I think that takes away from this year's team. And then we don't want to look ahead to 2023 when we're focused solely on 2022 in the game we have tonight. I can tell you this, I mean, outside of Friday night and us coming up short and not winning games, and nothing hurts a coach more than when those kids spill their heart and soul on a Friday night. They come up on the short end, they come for that meeting at midfield, and you're going to have to give them that talk, and you just look at the hurt, look at the disappointment in their faces when they've invested so much in it. And so that's the toughest thing. Outside of that, our guys have worked hard every week. They're a fun group to be around. We've had a lot of really good things going on. It does not show on a scoreboard on a Friday night, but the growth of this team, the growth of these young men through the course of a year, I couldn't be more prouder of them. And when the day's done, it's winning and losing is really critical, but it's about the journey of preparing people for life, and our guys are in a really good position to take that next step in their growth.
And then what can we expect, and how do we get around it against Fayetteville tonight?
Well, I mean, they do a really good job throwing the ball. I mean, they're probably 73% pass. And so we know they're going to put it in the air. They're also going to work the outside run game because, last week some of our biggest hiccups in our run defense has been on the edge. So we know they're going to attack that. Offensively, we got to move the sticks. We got to get first downs. We got to flip the field position. We've got to be efficient in our passing game. And then don't give up the big plays. We've got to create a couple here and there, and you've heard me say that over and over. But that's the truth. I mean, you don't give up big plays and you create some. Win the turnover battle, and I think things can go our way.
Coach, thanks for joining us, and good luck tonight as always.
I appreciate it.
The Wildcats will take on the Fayetteville Bulldogs right after this show. But in case you missed the highlights from the last game, we've got them for you. Take a look. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Behind the scenes of all Wildcat Sports is, I don't know. Hey, can I get someone in here with so they can help me do this, the clip? Now I got my IFB in. Can I get a camera operator in here? I mean, I wish I could extend my arms and camera operate at the same time, but that is not humanly possible. Can someone come clip this?
No.
Because I can't grab it.
Hey guys, for WCSN, I'm your mom.
For WCSN, it's hot mic. For WCSN, this is Cesar Batres right behind me on the talent cam. Responsible for every single cuss word you'll ever hear. I'm kidding.
Wait, is this live?
I know. Hey, they want to see the behind the scenes of the Wildcat Sports Network. Here you are. We are the CEOs and chiefs of bloopers. That is our thing. We never produce them because how many bleeps we would have to put in to them. I just want to give some credit here. If you're watching this, it's technical director Alexei Vargas. He's running all of this. He set this up perfectly. I'm right here for you, of course. As well as you got Cesar Batres doing some B-roll. You got Trevor Lawson running a camera. Nope, don't do that again. As Trevor Lawson's running a camera, you've got Jordan Jazuski, who was running a camera, as well as Richard Largaspada, and of course, the person that makes it all possible, Mrs. Hamilton. Just want to thank everybody for being a part of this. It's a show that it means a lot to me, means a lot to a lot of people. And so we'll try to get this underway. We're getting to 100 this year. We're stopping after 100. Well, at least I am after 100. So when we get there, we get there. As now we're about to get underway with this solo. I need someone on the teleprompter as well so we can get this underway. And there we go. Of course, technical director in my ear here yelling for a person to work the teleprompter. Also the first time all year that we've had an IFB in the ear because we fixed. I feel like I'm running for president. I don't think I'd win.
I feel like you're Knox Graham.
I know, I feel like I'm Knox Graham. Yes.
Is he running for Congress?
He might. His Instagram is Knox for His Instagram name is Knox for Congress. Love Knox.
Respect, I guess.
Oh yeah. Let's scroll to the top real quick. We're going to do a solo. Ooh. Good evening and welcome. Okay.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and I'm being told no, so oh my. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jared Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat volleyball player to break down both those seasons. And then plus a very, very, very special guest all the way from ESPN. Really? Why are we starting? Caesar. No. Bad Caesar. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jared Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat volleyball player to break it down both of those seasons. Plus a very, very, very special guest all the way from ESPN. There's a lot to talk about and not a second to waste. It's November 4th, 2022, and the Wildcat Sports Network starts right now.
Make one with November 3rd.
Oh, yeah, that's smart. Caesar said that's smart. Make one with November 3rd. That's very smart in case the dates do get moved. Are we going to do with one with November 3rd, November 5th, November 7th? Yeah, Caesar has achieved smartness.
Well, I'm no longer a monkey.
I'm ignoring that. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jared Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat volleyball player to break down both those seasons. Plus a very, very special guest all the way from ESPN. There's a lot to talk about and not a second to waste. It's November 3rd, 2022, and the Wildcat Sports Network starts right now. We've been using that for 10 years. You know how many years we've been doing this? 10 years. 11, actually. I'm getting out of the suit immediately after. Like, it's hot. Pink, it's a hot thing. Interesting. Ready? So what we have to do here is we stream this right before the football stream. And so if we say November 4th or we say November 3rd and the live stream's November 5th, we look like idiots. So we're going to film one for the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 7th in case the game does get moved. So we've already done the 3rd and we've done the 4th, so we're going to do the 5th and the 7th. So that's why we are back behind the scenes. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jerry Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat football player. Oh, fridge. Yep, go to the top. Go to the top, make it drop. That's a WAP. Waffles and pancakes. Boom. Thank you, JJ. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jerry Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat volleyball player to break down both of those seasons. Plus, a very, very special guest all the way from ESPN. There's a lot to talk about and not a second to waste. It's November 5th, and you stopped me, so now I am not reading the rest of my script because I'm angry. You did not roll that entire time. So we can stream to all of these people, but not record. Well, of course I am. I mean, I'm not. Of course I'm going to be dramatic.
Bruh.
No, don't change it. No, stay with it. It's wrong on purpose. Not really. It's just wrong. I am also the CEO of ad-libbing. So that's what I do. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jerry Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat volleyball player joining us to break down both of those seasons. Plus, a very, very, very special guest all the way from ESPN. There's a lot to talk about and not a second to waste. It's November 5th, 2022, and the Wildcat Sports Network starts right now. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
He's doing it.
Yep, November 7th.
I'm gonna go get Alexa cooking.
I'm doing it right now. Trevor, wearing a Lakers shirt, and they haven't won a game. Oh, they won one game. Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jerry Good evening and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Wildcat Sports Network. I'm your host in year 2 and final year, Connor Jenkins. We've got a Goliath of a show today with Wood and Superintendent Dr. Jerry Cleveland, as well as a Wildcat volleyball player joining us to break down both of those seasons. Plus, a very, very, very special guest all the way from ESPN. There's a lot to talk about and not a second to waste. It's November 7th, 2022, and the Wildcat Sports Network starts right now. Yep. No? Okay. No one liked it? Okay. Got it.